Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana namaskrityam naranchaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya mudire nashtaprayasho abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 48, text number 33. 10:48-33. Pitri uparate bhala Pitari uparate bala Saha matra sudukhitaha Saha matra sudukhitaha Anitaha swapuram ragya Anita swapuram ragya Vasanta iti shushruma Vasanta iti shushruma Pitari uparate bala Saha matra sudukhitaha Anitaha swapuram ragya Vasanta iti shushruma. Te bala Saha matra sudukhita Sapuram ragya Vasanta iti shushruma. You try for me? Pitari, their father. Uparate, when he passed away. Balaha, young boys. Saha, together with. Matra, their mother. Su, very. Dukhitaha, distressed. Anitaha, brought. Swa, to his own. Puram, capital city. Ragya, by the king. Vasante, they are residing. Iti, thus. Shushruma, we have heard. Translation. We have heard that when their father passed away, the young Pandavas were brought with their anguished mother to the capital city by the king Dhritarashtra, and that they are now living there. Please repeat. We have heard that when their father passed away, the young Pandavas were brought with their anguished mother to the capital city by King Dhritarashtra, and that they are now living there. Jiva Goswami's commentary. The reason for the question and the goal is now stated in 3 verses. The word uparate, passed away, is used, passed away is used in order to avoid vulgar language to a respectable person. The Pandavas were children, Balaha, when they were brought to Hastinapur. Krishna uses the word king even though he was blind because he now ruled the kingdom by chance. Using the word Shushruma, we have heard, indicates the sweetness of his human pastimes, since as the Lord he actually knows everything. The word Nunam in the next verse also suggests this. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So we are coming towards the end of this chapter, and in this chapter, in text number 12, earlier when this entire pastime started of Krishna actually with Uddhav and Balaram visiting the house of Akrura, is actually said that Krishna goes to Akrura's house for Priya Kamyaya. Priya Kamyaya means just to give pleasure to Akrura, and hence the title of this chapter is Krishna pleases his devotees. Right? So he's going to Akrura's house just to give pleasure to Akrura. And also the other word that's used is Kinchit Chikir Sayan. Kinchit Chikir Sayan. That means with a desire to engage him in service. You know? And I was thinking about this point, that when the Lord is actually pleased with us, he actually blesses us with more opportunity to offer seva. There is this, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, even there Prabhu was referring to that section, when Uddhava, when, this is when Krishna is ready to depart from this world, and Uddhava is actually having his final meeting with Krishna. This is on the banks of the river Saraswati, and describe how Krishna is sitting against a tree, and there's a beautiful description. But this is, Krishna is now ready to leave, and at that time, Uddhava actually, he prays to Krishna. He actually says that for devotees to actually get the four perfections of the Vedas, right? Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha, right? Religious activities, Artha, getting, some monetary benefit or any material benefit, Kama, fulfillment of desires, or Moksha. He said that is so easy to get for devotees. They don't care for these things. But what is your desire? So he's actually, expressing his desire to Krishna. He says, my only desire is that I always be engaged in service to your lotus feet. So for a devotee to actually have the opportunity to serve Krishna, that is the greatest benediction. And here, Krishna is actually blessing Akrura with a seva, right? And what is that seva? That's what we are reading in this section, where he's actually sending Akrura to actually see how the Pandavas are actually doing. So Krishna right now is in Mathura, and he's sending Akrura to Hastinapur, right? Hastinapur, to see how the Pandavas are actually doing. So, right. And we have seen that after Krishna has come to Akrura's house, we, just to give a quick overview of the chapter, we see how Akrura has greeted Krishna, right? So even previously when Kamsa had sent Akrura to actually bring Krishna and Balaram out of Vrindavan, then we see Akrura's devotion to Krishna, where throughout his journey he is actually meditating on, now I'll be able to see my Lord, my Master. And when he's actually coming into Vrindavan, as soon as he sees the lotus feet of Krishna, like the impressions on the dust of Vrindavan, immediately he jumps from his chariot and he rolls in the dust and says, this is the impression of my Master. So we see his devotion, and Prabhupada actually mentioned this point that, we all enter Vrindavan by following this mood of Akrura. And this journey is very nicely described, that how he's thinking that, I've been sent by Kamsa. So now will Krishna and Balram accept me as an enemy, or will they see me as their own? As their own. So in that way, Akrura. And now again we see how Akrura's devotion to Lord Shri Krishna is expressed, that when Krishna, Balram and Uddhav actually come, he actually bathes he washes their feet, and then he gives them different kinds of gifts. Then he applies sandalwood paste, he gives jewelry, flower garlands, he worships, he massages the feet of Krishna. So intimate dealings between Akrura and Krishna. Right? And then we read after the entire section the prayers of Akrura. So we see there are two sections of prayers of Akrura. One is when he's actually going to Vrindavan to bring Krishna Balram, and now this is the second section. This is from text 17 to 27 in this chapter. And particularly text 26 of the prayers I want to point out, where Akrura is actually saying, "O Krishna, you are our affectionate, grateful, truthful well-wisher. You are actually a Suridaha." Suridaha. So Prabhupada often mentions on this point Surida. Even in Bhagavad Gita we say, "Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loke maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam." That Krishna is actually the best friend of everyone. So Akrura is saying, "Oh Krishna, you are our Surida. You are actually a truthful well-wisher. You are actually our dear friend." Right? And then he actually makes a point that anyone who worships you in sincere friendship, you reward everything to that person, even yourself. So when someone worships Krishna with that mood of friendship, because Akrura has a mood of Sakya, in one of the purposes I'll mention, the mood of friendship. So he's actually praying that if anyone worships you in sincere friendship, you reward everything, even yourself. Right? So in that way, after Akrura's prayers, we see how Lord Krishna replies, and he actually says that, "Oh Akrura, you are actually our true guru, you are our friend, and you are such a saintly person that anyone who actually just has darshan of you, he'll get purified." Right? So there's also a bhajan where we sing, "O Vaishnava Thakur," where we actually say, "Darshana pavitra hoy, ei tumhara gun." The quality of a Vaishnava is just by seeing a devotee of the Lord, one actually gets purified. So that's how Krishna has actually praised Akrura, and Krishna has also used the word Suridam. Right? So Akrura has used the word Suridam to Krishna, that you are our best friend, and now Krishna is saying, actually, you are also our best friend. So in the previous verse, we saw the word Suridam, and that is actually referring to Akrura, and also that refers to, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, because you are a well-wisher, you are Surida, and also it refers to the Pandavas, because they are also well-wishers to us, they are also friends to you, Akrura. Right? Hence, you should actually go and see how the Pandavas are actually doing. And do this for your benefit. And I was thinking about this point, that why is Krishna is saying, "Oh Akrura, do this for your benefit." One way Krishna is there and he's sending Akrura away. So where is the question of benefit? But just to be engaged in the seva is actually the blessing. So he's saying, do this for your benefit. And that way he actually is sending Akrura to see how the Pandavas are doing. So, in this verse, coming back to this verse, here we see, so he says, Pitari uparate. Right? So, Pitari uparate means when their father passed away. Right? So, and Jiva Goswami is making to this first point, Pitari uparate, he says the word uparate, passed away, is used in order to avoid vulgar language to a respectable person. I was thinking, why is Jiva Goswami making this point? And then if you see in the history of Mahabharata, that how, Pandu was appointed as a king, and then he was a very powerful king. And at that time when Pandu was appointed as a king, then it is described that the Kuru dynasty, which was always powerful, was actually kind of losing power at that time. The other nations were becoming even more powerful. But then Pandu actually saw this, and he took permission and blessings of Bhishma Pitama, and he said, "I will go and conquer." So Pandu went and he conquered all the other nations, and again he established the Kuru dynasty as the emperor of the entire world. You know. And then after he came back, he was in palace for like maybe few months, but he never liked palace life. He was more like he had the spirit of renunciation, and he just wanted to go and live in the forest. So that's why he actually left the kingdom, and then because he left, then on his behalf, Dhritarashtra was appointed as a king. You know, and it was just on his behalf. Right? And then Pandu was in the forest, and then we know the story of how like once, you know, as kings, they actually, you know, hunt, they actually, you know, shoot arrows at deers and other animals. And that's, you know, the Kshatriyas do that more as an aspect for, you know, strengthening their skills, you know. So in that mood, he actually saw two deer, and he actually shot an arrow, you know. And then the male deer, you know, it was almost like it was wounded and almost about to die, and he started speaking to Pandu. And he actually said, you know, like the king was surprised that the male deer is speaking, you know, but he actually said that as a king, it is not wrong for you to hunt, to shoot an arrow at a deer or other animals, lower animals. But the point that you shot the arrow when we, you know, the deer and the male and the female deer were actually having a union, that is actually very wrong. You actually shot the arrow just at the time when we were uniting, you know, and that is very wrong. And hence that deer actually said, actually I am a sage, and you know, this is my wife, and we actually took the form of a deer because, you know, you're in the forest, and you know, how can we unite, and people would say bad things about us, so we took this form of a deer. And because you shot us just at the moment when we are going to unite, I curse you that when you actually try to unite with your wife, then you will actually die. So when Pandu actually was cursed in this way, you know, he decided that, okay, I am entering Vanaprastha life. You know, I will take a life of celibacy, I will give up everything, I will just take Vanaprastha life. So he was sending his wives, you know, Madri and Kunti, back to the palace, but they refused. They said, like, whatever you are, we are just going to follow you. Right? So they actually, all three of them enter Vanaprastha life. And when in the Hastinapur kingdom, when the news came that how Pandava was cursed, Dhritarashtra was not happy. But since the curse was there, they actually said, okay, since Pandu has entered Vanaprastha, no one is there to rule, hence Dhritarashtra, you become the king. You know? And that actually comes later on. I'll comment on the other point, how Dhritarashtra was the king. So Dhritarashtra became the king that way. And then Pandu was in the forest, and then they had children. They wanted to have children, but Kunti had this special boon where she could invoke the presence of demigods, and then they had the 5 Pandavas. And then after that, and many years, it said like many years passed by in the forest. But once, just it was like a spring, very beautiful weather, and then Pandu could not control his desire, and then he tried to unite with Madri, and immediately he died. Immediately he died. So coming to a point here, why Jiva Goswami is saying the word uparate, passed away, is used in order to avoid vulgar language to a respectable person. I was thinking of the point that for a Kshatriya, the glorious death for a Kshatriya is when he actually dies on the battlefield fighting. And Krishna makes this point to Arjun in Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter in like text I think 33 or 34, where he actually says, blessed are those Kshatriyas who get the opportunity to fight and die in the battlefield. That is the glory of a Kshatriya. But here this death of the Kshatriya Pandu was actually not respectable. It's like, he could not control his urge, and then hence he was actually, he died because of the curse. So hence his death is actually considered not a very glorious death, right? But Sukdev Goswami didn't want to mention that, and hence he just said uparate, passed away. So he's actually, toned it down. He didn't want to mention that how it was not a glorious death, right? So that's the first point, Uparate. Then second point, it actually says Balaha. So when Pandu died because of the curse, these 5 Pandavas, they were young boys, and hence here Balaha is actually used. They were very young at that time. So these young boys, they were, and then here it is referred, Krishna is saying king, right? And Jiva Goswami is actually making the point that Krishna calls Dhritarashtra the king, even though he was blind, because he now ruled the kingdom by chance. So every word is actually so significant that Krishna is actually saying Ragya, to Dhritarashtra, to make the point, almost in a sarcastic mode, that actually he is not really the king. He was not the first choice, but just out of circumstance, he was actually appointed the king. Just because Pandu was cursed, hence he was a king. Because Dhritarashtra was the eldest of the 3. And because he was blind, he was not offered the kingdom. So we see that Dhritarashtra, he still always, because he was blind and he couldn't become the king as the first choice, he always in his heart had that desire, oh, I should become the king. Why am I not the first choice? And that same attachment to the kingdom actually further developed into the attachment of his son Duryodhan becoming the king. And the same attachment. So Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, first verse, Prabhupada makes a point in the purport where it says, Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsava mamaka pandavascheva kim akurvat sanjaya. And Prabhupada makes this point that even in the first verse, we see how Dhritarashtra, he's making a difference between his sons and the sons of Pandu, his brother. And Krishna knew of this even at the starting. That Dhritarashtra, he is not only blind physically, but he has that attachment which blinds him spiritually. So he will not treat the sons of Pandu with the same way as he treats his own sons. And hence, O Akrura, you go and you see how they are doing, and then you report back, and then we will actually take action. So that's basically Krishna's point here. And then the next point here is, it says, Dukhitaha, Sudukhitaha, Matra Sudukhita, and with their mother who was anguished. Right? So one way we see that this is the start of all the sufferings that the Pandavas are actually going to face. So one may say, like we see the word Krishna is saying, oh, these Pandavas are so Ridha, they are so dear to me. At the same time, we see that from now onwards, the entire life of the Pandavas is filled with suffering, one after the other. So if Krishna is so dear to them, right, they are so dear to Krishna, why so many sufferings? Why so many suffering? Why did the Pandavas have to go through so much, starting from this point where Dhritarashtra, they had to face the unfair treatment by Dhritarashtra, by the king. So here it says, anguished mother, referring to Kunti, she actually, they were brought back to the capital city by Dhritarashtra, and they are now living there. So you please find out how they are actually doing. So I'll come to this point of why, why the Pandavas had to go through so much difficulties, starting from this point, right, from Pandu's death. And then the final word here is Shushruma, right? So Jiva Goswami gives a very nice point. Shushruma means we have heard. So Krishna is saying, Akrura, we have heard that now they are actually brought back to the kingdom of Dhritarashtra after the death of their father. Now one may say, and Jiva Goswami in brackets in the commentary actually says, Krishna knows everything. Krishna knows everything. But why is he saying Shushruma? We have heard, as if he does not know, right? So this actually brings out the sweetness of Krishna's pastime, his human-like pastimes. It brings out that mood of sweetness. And hence Krishna actually says, Shushruma, Shushruma, we have heard. So you please go, you please see what is the real situation. And so we see like in Krishna's pastime, though he is all-knowing, yet he actually acts in such a way that he needs the help of other people. He wants to, you go, you find out. I don't know what is happening. And then even with Uddhav, it's actually mentioned, Uddhav is right here with Krishna. Uddhav is actually mentioned. That Uddhav is thinking that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is omniscient. He knows everything. But why does he actually ask me? And he takes counsel from me as if I know something better than him. You know. And Uddhav is like bewildered by this act, like, you know, because there's an entire story in the 10th canto when Yudhishthira Maharaj is performing Rajasuya Yagya, and there's invitation to come to that place, and at the same time there's this kings captured by Jarasandha, and they send a letter, you please come here. And Krishna is like, should I go to Yudhishthira? Should I go to these kings and rescue these kings from Jarasandha? Where should I go? And Krishna is all-knowing. But yet, he actually asks Uddhav and says, Uddhav, you are the best of, you know how to give good counsel. You please tell us what to do. You know? So these acts of Krishna, where he's actually asking people, you find out, you know, what is happening, you give counsel, all these acts actually shows Krishna's sweetness. It brings out Krishna's mood of, you know, dealing with devotees as if, you know, he's dependent upon them. As if he's dependent upon them. Right? So the Shushuma word is actually used. Now, actually I was thinking the next two verses are actually related to this, because Krishna is just telling Akrura, you please go and see how the Pandavas are actually doing. And even our acharyas do not give elaborate commentary for the next two verses because it's just an instruction. So we can read the next two verses. So 34. Teshu Rajambika Putro Bhratar Putreshu Dinadi Samona Vartate Nunam Dus Putra Vasha Go Andadrik. Indeed, weak-minded Dhritarashtra, the son of Ambika, has come under the control of his wicked sons, and therefore that blind king is not treating his brother's sons fairly. So we already talked about this point, how here it is particularly mentioned that Dhritarashtra is weak-minded. Right? The word that is used is dinadihi. His mind is not very strong. He is actually corrupted by the ill desires of his son Duryodhana. Therefore, he is not treating Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas well. Right? And then the next verse says, Gacha janihi tadvrittam adhuna sadhva asadhuva vikyaya tad vidhyasyamo yathasham suridam bhavet. Go and see whether Dhritarashtra is acting properly or not. Like the Sanskrit says, sadhu, asadhu. Sadhu means good, asadhu means, it was evil, right? Evil, the word to word says it. So is Dhritarashtra acting as a sadhu, or is he acting as a asadhu? Is he acting properly or not? When we find out, right? So vidhayasyamaha. So he says, we will arrange. When we find out what is the true situation, vigyaya, then we will actually make necessary arrangements to help our friends Suridam. So again the word Suridam is there. And saying, they are dear to me, the Pandavas are so dear to me. So once you find out how Dhritarashtra is treating the Pandavas, then we will take appropriate action. Right? And Jiva Goswami is just saying, go now and find out if the king's actions are good or bad. Right? So basically this is the mission that Krishna has given Akrura and said, like, go, this is a task. You know, now they are there in the kingdom of Hastinapur, but Dhritarashtra is evil-minded. So I'm not sure whether he's treating them properly, whether he's sadhu or asadhu. You please go and find out. And that's the next chapter basically where Akrura will actually, meet the people, different personalities in Hastinapur. He'll meet Bhishma Pitama, he'll meet all the Pandavas, and he'll bring back the report to Krishna that how the Pandavas are being treated. Right? Okay. So there's one more verse, the last verse of the chapter, but I won't go to that. But these are the three verses that actually is the mission that Krishna has given Akrura. Now, okay, let's see if there are any comments or any points. Then otherwise I can talk about the point about the difficulty, dukkitaha. Should I continue? Okay. Mm. Yeah. So those are online distributors' point is like we see like how Krishna and Balaram at different pastimes we see that how they do not know certain things, right? But there's a difference. Like Balaram in Brahma Vimohan Leela, after a year he figured out, oh, this is what is happening. But Krishna many times is just like acts in such a way that he does not know, and this is bewildering to people. And you know this that third canto when Uddhav is actually talking to Krishna. He brings up this point and says, this is so bewildering. You know, like how can common man understand that Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not know? And then he gives so many other contradictions. He says like, he is the person who is unborn, yet he takes birth. How can we understand that? And then he says like, oh, this is a person who has no desire. He has nothing to do, yet he actually personally acts. He actually lifts Govardhan hill. He does so, he brings out all these contradictions. And he says like, this is so bewildering for common people. And later on he tells Krishna, Krishna, you please explain, you know, how we can actually understand these contradictions. So he tells Krishna that you spoke Chatushloki Bhagavatam to Brahma, so please explain me that along with how people can understand these contradictions. You know, so that's the conversation, and that's what Maitreya Rishi will later narrate to Vidura. You know, so, okay. So one point I want to mention is about this Sudukitaha, that how the Pandavas, though they are Surida, they are so dear to Krishna, right? That and the Surida later on we read in the first canto also that when Parikshit Maharaj, he's traveling all around the world now he's the emperor. When he's traveling all around, everywhere he goes, everyone is speaking about the love between the Pandavas, his grandfathers, right? His grandfathers and Krishna. Everyone is talking, and there's a beautiful verse there which actually says, Sarthaya Parshada Sevana Sakya Dautya. But actually says that the Lord Krishna, who is actually universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger to friend to night watchman, right? According to the will of the Pandavas. So this is how, because of that deep surida, that affection, Krishna actually, he acted as their friend, he acted as a chariot driver, as a night watchman. You know, Krishna acted as a night watchman, according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. When he heard this, Maharaj Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of Lord. Just hearing this, that how Krishna was exchanging these dealings with the Pandavas, he had so much love for the Pandavas that Parikshit was filled with devotion. Right? So that's that aspect of Surida. Right? Krishna loves the Pandavas so much. Right? And then the point is why Pandavas go through so much suffering. And this actually is very nicely explained in the first canto, 9th chapter, when Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows, and all the Pandavas, they actually come, there. And Bhishma actually makes the point. He says, Aho kashtam, aho nyayam, yad yuyam dharma nandana, jivitam naharta klishtam, vipra dharma chutashraya. He says that you, O Yudhishthira, you are the son of Dharmaraj, right? And you are protected by Brahmanas, you are protected by Dharma, you are protected by Achyuta, Lord Krishna himself. How come you had to go through so many sufferings? And then he mentions that Queen Kunti, she suffered greatly after the death of Pandu. and she had to raise the young children alone, and she suffered even when you were grown up, and Bhishma is thinking, why Pandavas, you are so dear to Krishna, why you had to go through? And then first he says, Sarva kalam kritam mane. This is all due to inevitable time. But then he says, actually time is under control of Krishna. So Krishna is right there. So Krishna could have changed everything. Why did Krishna, have all the Pandavas go through all these difficulties, right? Then Bhishma Pitama actually makes the point. Nahi asya karichid rajat. No one can understand Krishna's plan. No one can understand why Krishna subjected all the Pandavas to go through all the sufferings. And later on, we don't have time to read it, but if someone wants to read in 1st Canto 9th chapter, text 19, in the purport, Prabhupada actually quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur saying that the reason why Pandavas were subjected through all these suffering is just to intensify their devotion with Krishna. Just to intensify the dealings between Krishna and the Pandavas. That's why Pandavas went through all these suffering, but all that was just an exchange of rasa. Right? So anyway, that's a very beautiful point. Can discuss more, but this is more time. So we'll stop here. So this is Krishna's instructions to Akrura, and next chapter we'll see how Akrura goes to Hastinapur and how he's actually seeing how everyone is doing in Hastinapur. He meets Queen Kunti, etc., and then comes back and reports back to Krishna. Okay. We'll end. Grantar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha, Patitam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Priya Priti Manti
Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite na yane babe nira Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite no yone Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka sharira Hari Hari bolite na yane babe nira Araka benitai chande karuna hoibe samsara basana mora kabe tu chahabe Araka benitai chande karuna Vishaya chariya kabe shuddha habe mana kabe ham he rabo Shri Vrindavana Vishaya chariya kabe Shuddha habe mana kabe ham he rabo Shri Vrindavana Rupa Raghunatha pade होइबे आकुति कभे हम भुजाबो से युगल प्रीति रूप रघुनाथ पदे होइबे आकुति कभे हम भुजाबो से युगल रूप रघुनाथ पदे राहु मोरा आशा प्रार्थना करो ये सदा नरोत्तम दासा रूप रघुनाथ पदे राहु मोरा आशा प्रार्थना हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोलोकानंद श्री राधे जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai. I'll just take it like this.
And well, I'm eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis so that I can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. The lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis are my only shelter. In constant remembrance, I remain Narottam Das. Jai. Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Gurvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vicharanam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pravitanam Pranamita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudan Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadishikamae Mama Janmini Janmini Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Vibhayatavanam Madhangaja Stita Duli Sajashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galadashu Daraya Varanam Gadgadurudaya Kira Pulakarnishitam Vabhukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagatsarvam Govindam Virahename Aslisha-vapadam ritam manastumam adarshanam marmahata karotuva yata tata vavinata lampadam prananatastu sahevanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, void of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai. Tomorrow is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada's disappearance day. It's a half-day fast. We'll have a special reading in the morning, and then we'll have a program starting at 11:30, where we'll be watching a class listening to a class by Srila Prabhupada and Pushpanjali and simultaneous artik for both Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the deities, and then lunch after that. Hare Krishna.